Hello, hello, everyone, and welcome to Dragon Dreamscape. I am your host, Athena Seye, and I am really excited to continue these episodes diving into the ancient mysteries, ancient rememberings, activations, and really connecting to our divinity in our everyday life. So before I introduce my amazing guest today, I want to just open the space with some beautiful sound healing, some light language, and just calling in those beautiful energies to surround this space. So wherever you are, if you want to put your hand on your heart or hands upward, facing upward in your lap, just to hold that space of receivership, go ahead, closing your eyes if you're able, and tuning in to this frequency. Sono koreasi chia salana hai kuasa chia sonoho ayatai. Sanaya ku atia si chia soloho atia karia sonoto ai tia somoto ai. Ariaku aya satia sono ayataria sonoto ko aya poayati. Sono hai chia sonoto aikaria sonoho ayata. So just opening our heart field, opening this sacred container, this sacred space for all the love and the wisdom that will be shared today. I honor everyone wherever you are watching this, at whatever space and time you are watching this. Thank you so much for joining us and being here. So as we get started in that energy and that frequency, I'd like to introduce my guest today, Samaya. I hope I said that right. I'm so happy that we're connecting in this way. I just feel that our paths have been crossing more and more, and I'm super excited for you to be here as my special guest. So
Thank
welcome.
you so much for having me. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. So let's talk a little bit about you and where you're at now. I know you're the vibrational priestess and an oracle. So I'd love to just tell the audience a little bit about what you do and what you represent.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. I have been emerging the last few years. It's become very clear that as part of the work that I was meant to do, purely, it's all kind of emerged in a very playful way. I've been working as an alignment coach and working psychically for the last few years. And you know what it's like when you put yourself out there, having had the background of working as a healer for many years, since 2006, there comes a time where that process of kind of like real integration and a real kind of getting a real sense of yourself and how you meant to be serving other people, it's an organic process, right? It's a process that just sort of unfolds through a number of experiences you have on a personal level, alongside the kind of like desires you have and how you develop as a human being. And it's become very clear that the psychic aspect of the work was going to take a lot more of a prominent role in my service in the years ahead and in the last few years. And I guess it was primarily for the very pure reason, as I'm sure you understand, Athena, is that this thing of like, it really cut to the chase. It was reading energy really enabled me to really get to the core of what was hiding behind the words, behind what we thought we understood to be the case, or to be an issue, to be whatever was going on for us. And I found that although I had all these strategies and all those kind of like incredible formulas and tools that I could use to assist others, I just found that the way that psychic intuition was able to really cut to the chase and really offer results, it felt like it became very clear that it was kind of leading the way into all the work I was doing. And then there was a moment I decided to, this is what I love about the energy that we've been stepping into over the last few years, and it's happening, it's increasing more and more. I don't know if you find this, but I feel increasingly that, you know, our work is meant to be joyful. Our work is meant to still be something that feeds us as well as the people that we are supporting and serving as well. That it still holds a level of mystery for us. It's not the thing that we've been taught. with the experts on something. It's not about that. It continues to be a rabbit hole that we are going into, that we're exploring, that we're falling into, and a journey that we don't necessarily even know the destination of. And what I loved about this process was the world of reading energy is like, it's the language of the soul. It's the language of the soul, and it's a universal language that goes beyond barriers, that goes beyond cultural difference, beyond political, socioeconomic, everything. It really cuts to the chase. And this very unifying language is also very beautiful. It's very poetic. It's very whimsical. And I fell in love with the process of just seeing the ways the soul expresses, and the higher self, the messages that are actually there to assist us to move forward. I fell in love with it. And in that process of that, I said, like, let me see if I can I do this? Can I teach this? Could I actually teach it? And a few people came forward, and I found that I could, and it felt like a really fun thing. And when we went down to that, I felt like it started to form into something, into an experience, and to a process that people can get into, and we could sort of create the foundation for this. So over the last few years, I've been teaching a system called, well, it's energy reading, the energy reading method, but it's essentially, I call it the Soul Star Oracle. So people become Soul Star Oracle. Soul Star being our kind of eighth chakra, which is beyond the crown chakra, and it's actually the seat of our soul and the home of our higher self. So there's so many different systems of connecting with intuition and psychic intuition and the messages of the universe, but that is kind of via our soul star, which is essentially a higher self. So it feels a lot more accessible for people. And it's a journey that the more I get into it, the more mysterious it becomes for me, and the more I want to learn, and the more I want to sort of get lost into it as well. So I think that all my life, I've been wanting this thing of like really having a sense of the joy that comes with it, but also like, this is not about being the expert. This is all about being like quite sort of surprised by it as well, and wanting to understand more and learn to become more fluent in the language of the soul, if it makes sense. And I guess that's kind of the journey at the moment, and particularly the legacy that comes with reopening the doors to the mystery schools. I remember there was a woman in the course, and when she realized, through the practice, that when it was kicking in, that she was really tuning in, she was really reading energy, she was really seeing what was going on beyond, and her eyes and her whole energy shifting, and kind of almost like in this disbelief, and feeling really moved by that, and then kind of me feeling very moved by that, and realizing what we're doing here is like, we've been inundated with knowledge for so long, and quite frankly, I'm so tired of knowledge. You know what I mean? That kind of knowledge. I feel like our mystery schools, like, I love knowledge, but as long as our mystery schools are shut down, like gathering dust, right? And us not going in to sweep the floors, not going in to like polish the surfaces, not going in to water the plants. What are we like? For me, that knowledge in itself, it's not really where it's at. It's empty. It's kind of missing out. And this is what the essentially is a legacy. It's just like reopening the doors to mystery schools. That's what I'm interested about, and that's what I want to be part of. Those are the conversations I want to be having with other people, and those are the people I want to be learning from, because that kind of knowledge, that comes from the soul, that comes from the universe, that comes from a higher self, that is the knowledge that I think it's the knowledge that our world, our cultures, our societies are needing right now, and are desperate and thirsty for, not the knowledge that we see often in the books, or that just come from pure intellect.
Yes, there's so many points right there, and I am on that same mission too, is understanding our soul at such a deeper level, and understanding that our body is the mystery school.
Oh my God, yeah.
It is us. And
Oh
that
my God.
is the separation. Humanity suffers from heartache and this separation, they're afraid of the void, but yet they're still cutting themselves off from experiencing what that mystery, what that rabbit hole, what that void could actually offer them, because our societies are often, programmed to think that we're always having to go, go, go and do all these
Yeah.
things and all this knowledge. And while I'm a book nerd, like I have like I
I've got a
love
his and hers
love diving
bookcase.
in.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's also this, other understanding of we're holding so much medicine within our bodies. And when
Yes.
we can access our soul star, the earth star, when we can access our light body, when we can start to run those energies and connect to the vastness of the universe, we
Yeah.
really are reconnecting that severed cord. We're coming back to our heart as truth, and we're sharing that in such a way that, again, yeah, it's not about being awesome on TikTok or on social
Yeah.
media.
Yeah.
That can be
And
your
it's
thing if
fine if
that's
you're
your
gonna have
path.
fun with it.
Yes, but it's also like really understanding ourselves. And you're totally right on with what I've been feeling is it's about sensuality,
Yeah.
it's sacred sexuality, it's play, it's laughter, it's ecstasy, it's understanding that what
Yeah.
we're experiencing in the world outside of us is actually mirroring us back. So if we
Yeah.
can find that joy outside, we know that we've cultivated it inside, and vice versa. So I love that you're speaking of
Yeah.
that, because that's also, what drives me. It's what
I could
commits
tell
me.
that. I could tell that, Athena, from your post, that, the soulfulness in your spiritual journey is a very important part of it, as opposed to just the kind of like process of transcending and ascending, this, that we ascend through the body, as you
Yes.
said. And I think you've said the magical word for me, that the key word in what you said is what I really 100% resonate, which is all about the medicine. We become our own medicine. And I think that everything that's been happening in my life has been pushing me to really drink from my own medicine, and kind of just see that actually was never about the safety, in the sense of like, the safety that protects, that kind of keeps you almost like, sometimes we've created a bit of a safety in a modern world that actually almost protects us from our own medicine, stops us from accessing the medicine. It's almost like became more of a guard and a shield rather than an access to it. And I think that I've noticed now that it's all been back to drinking from our own medicine, becoming our own solution. And it's not really even an attack into what I've shared earlier about the intellect, because I love the intellect. I really enjoy it, and I enjoy what it has to offer. But I guess I was talking more as a predominant rule in society, in the world, that kind of maybe rules from it or kind of guides from it. And I think that, I guess that's where I was coming from. And I love books, but I think that kind of era of rebalancing, it's kind of like it was well overdue. And I think that I'm in like, if you want to put it like that, my business is the business of the legacy of the mystery schools, that, everyday normal women like you and me, are kind of realizing that very medicine actually transforms into this incredible key that not only opens up the doors to our mystery schools, like it sort of opens up doors to like kind of the potential it is to create incredible things. And to me, this is really what this journey is about at the moment, and really being part of the communities that give that, receive that we exchange that, and we try to communicate the language and to try to understand from one another how we can keep on expanding into this space, And I love that we're having this conversation. My son is just right next to me right now playing his Xbox, thinking, what the? And I love that this is going on. He's smiling, because it's like, we really need to normalize it. We really need to like kind of start to find a way to not, it's a mystery school, but equally the doors need to open, right? We might need to like bring people, create a market for people to taste things, to experience, not to keep it at this underworld kind of mystical tradition that just doesn't kind of like have a space in that doesn't have a market for everyone to come and challenge it, to ask questions, saying what the, you know, and go if they want to. If it doesn't, like, I don't see the medicine, just let me get out of here. Great, let's do this, you know, let's have this conversation. So
yeah, I agree. And that's what I call the everyday divinity, where we bring it into our everyday life and we walk it. We're that walking prayer. And the more that we can devote our time, like this space before this call, you know, I devoted it to the divine within. I go on walks, devote it to the divine within, just that little piece of it. We take that with us. And yeah, I see it actually spreading more and more, because we know that we are the pillars of light and that we're anchoring in this cosmic information into our bodies and also into the earth. And so we are those pillars. And so people finding that light, seeing us, seeing this, and yeah, maybe maybe it's a toe, you know, stepping in it with a toe, or maybe they want to do cannonball style all the way in. But you know, each person will have their own journey with it and feel into what is right. And again, you know, we are not saying there's only one way. You know, that's something that we've all kind of went through in other lifetimes, that there's only one way, or maybe the church or something is, you know, kind of programmed some people to think that this is the only way, only one truth. But really, when it's our heart, we all have our own truth. We all have our own essence. We have our own medicine, and we just have to get curious and have that brave heart, right? That courage to step in and say, I'm curious. I need to lean into this and not be so afraid of maybe, you know, what others have experienced or what, you know, we've been programmed to think. And so, you know, part of my work is working in the shadow realms and helping people to remove traumas, and not even remove them, but embrace those shadowy aspects of self, and understand that they're the keys. Like, you know, they are the keys to us understanding more of who we are and how we can, like you had mentioned, create from that. Because when we do that internal work, we actually create space for us to create from love, to create from joy. And so it's like we have to do that. We're still in that clearing space, it feels like, for a lot of people. Like, we're clearing out so then we can open up more fully, so then we can be the change in our world.
I mean,
And
I still go through my experiences. I still go through my shadow work, and I still kind of feel at times like, oh my God, there's some days I'm thinking, I can't believe I'm in this position where I'm helping other people when I'm still going through all this stuff, you know? So like kind of, and it's not necessarily an imposter syndrome, but it's more like that kind of realization that actually this stuff is ongoing, you know? It's like, when it doesn't just like stop just because you've been doing for years work with yourself. It doesn't kind of just suddenly just, oh, everything is better now, you know, like ding, next level. But it's definitely though about having those kind of like conscious kind of conversations with self and others about the process. Right, okay, and I'm trying this and I'm doing this and I'm actually finding as I do this opens up for me, you know. And for a while also it's this thing, you know, the hierarchy, Maslow's hierarchy, this hierarchy of needs. I do feel in that development, you know, you talked about the shadow work you do with other people and help them. I do feel that's a big part of the work that I do in my other mentorship. And I think that in a way, what you've just said, you keep on like throwing all the real good juicy, you get right to the core and got the right thing to like expand on. It does feel like creating that space is vital for desiring the connection with something that is maybe, I guess, outside the norms of what society gave us as goals and as things to aspire to, like, you know, that sort of like toxic productivity, for instance, and traumatic productivity, where it's like go, go, go. Or kind of whatever society has shown us to be like the joy for us, you know, maybe going on a holiday once a year or whatever it is, like going out drinking. And it feels like the more we kind of, and I don't know, I want to hear your experience from your client work, the more it feels like the space is created, the more the curiosity starts to ignite for people. Well, that didn't work, or how I've been doing this and what I've been finding pleasure and it doesn't feel pleasurable anymore. So, and kind of maybe something opening up from there to look at something else, other possibilities that are within us. But I'm curious to know how you have found it and what's kind of getting people to maybe desire more and become more curious about new ways of connecting with oneself, with other people, with the universe, or understanding universal language more? What do you think? What's your experience of it?
Well, I think that, I mean, over the last few years, of course, as humanity, we've been going through so many shifts and so much. And I think that, and this is something that came through a channeled message that I did earlier on another podcast. And the message was really, it's about like, we have to release the grip to the old ways, because internally we are feeling that it's not working anymore. And it's like,
Yeah,
it's like, you're hitting your head on the same brick wall, the brick wall's not moving. And so it's almost like people were getting frustrated, and then maybe they were even shutting down a little bit because it wasn't working, but they just kind of needed to, like, I always say, like, turn the diamond, look at the fractal a little bit differently. And when you
I
can
love
have
that.
that kind of, it's almost like, what we call the silent witness, right? It's being able to witness yourself and shifting the perspective so you can see, oh, you know what? If I could actually widen my perspective, if I don't need to narrow in at this one thing, if I can surrender and actually allow the universe, my soul, to work through me, then from that space, then we can have that perspective of change is okay. And you
Yeah,
said earlier, and I'm actually literally going through this right now as I'm changing up my whole life, is this desire for more, and this way of being that is just so much more pleasurable and fun, and just to release the old ways. And even if it worked for a time, it's like understanding that we are cyclical. We are on this amazing spiral, like our DNA. Our DNA is constantly moving and shifting and growing with us. And it's like we are opening up to more possibility, but we have to surrender. And I think some people are afraid of surrender,
yeah.
me included. I have a very strong will, very strong will. Um,
Same.
and I'm used to forcing things. And it's like stepping also into that more feminine, more mother goddess kind of energy, where it's about surrendering and receiving and pulling and magnetizing what is ours. And so I feel like there's a shift within myself, but then also the people I'm seeing, it's like they're
Yeah,
no longer, their old lives are no longer serving them. We are being called into our power. We're being called into pleasure. We're being called into creation. We're being called into truth and compassion. And these aspects, these values are helping us to shift, but we have to let go. We have to release and move beyond what we thought we knew into the unknown.
yeah, absolutely. I love that you've kind of really said it there when you talked about we need to release the hold. It's almost like, when we think about connections and relationships, if you're kind of holding on to an old relationship, unless you release the hold to that, you can't invite the new, right? The upgraded version of whatever connection or new thing. And that's an important aspect, isn't it? Like we have to recognize there has to be a conscious understanding that something in this in itself, yeah, there's some really great elements, but something is not quite serving or is not giving whatever that thing that needs to be filled inside. It's not been filling this up. It's not the kind of, it doesn't give the kind of like elixir that we need, really. And in a way also there's that thing of leaning into these new possibilities and almost like this thing, like here's the thing that I feel like maybe not enough talk is being had in the world of the online space, that because we're very good to put out there formulas, kind of the answer to this, the solution. But I think the thing that we're a bit too scared to talk about, or maybe because it doesn't sell very much, I don't know, is this thing that actually there's a gap in between, that actually it's a very experimental place. And quite frankly, if you bring the expert in that, they won't know what to do with it, because it's not their place to be in that space. It's a place for us to just kind of be swimming in the dark for a minute. And that's the bit that no coaching or expert or even healer or guide was kind of essentially needed in when I was going through it, I needed to just be in that space of recognizing, like, this is not working, this is not working, da da da. So right, then I just need to let myself just disappear into the ether for a minute. And I think that, I don't know what you think about that. I feel like it's the bit that we need to maybe have more conversations about. That there's a hell of a lot of, like, between that old version of self, or the kind of lifestyle or the mindset, and the new one, there's a big sort of messy part that we don't know how to work with. And you know what I mean?
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
and that's where the medicine in the not knowing, and in the dropping into it, and into, I guess, what you talked about as partly the surrender, and just kind of trying to just make ourselves kind of navigate that space without a compass, map, or anything for a while.
Absolutely. And I like to call that's like the birthing portal. That's like when you're going from the womb, right? Something's being created, but you still got to come out into the world. And so it's that uncomfortable, everything
Yeah.
is getting tighter, it's squishing in. You're like, but if you can just release and, like you said, just kind of be with it. And that's again also that's the divine mother. That's the energy of the void. That's the energy of just allowing to be, because when we can actually drop into that darkness, which so many people are scared of, that uncertainty, that not knowing, like just feeling like the compass isn't working, it's spinning in every direction, I don't know what's north. But
Yeah.
when we actually drop into that and be in that space, it's like the light is birthed from that.
Yeah. And actually, that direction is not really always about direction. We don't need to always know where we're going. Sometimes we need to know what we are being. We need to
Oh,
step into that being, and to actually, because this kind of orientation aspect, which is giving this illusion, oh yeah, well, I'm in the right path. Yeah. But actually, like, none of us know where we're going at the moment. Like, we don't know really, when it comes down to it. And it's this thing of, like, really, can we just drop into this space? And what we find there is a lot more important, than valuable, rather, than the whatever we feel the destination is going to lead us to. And it's not necessarily connected to that sort of level of result. It's a lot more kind of mystical, and it's a lot more to do with kind of, I guess, having to really go deep within our soul, right? And retrieve those parts. We become our own sort of shamans, and create this soul retrieval process, where we kind of bring from within something that, unless we were left a little bit in the dark, we wouldn't be going to look for it.
Yeah.
Or even know that we want to look for it. And that process feels like such a valuable one. And I feel that one of the things I'm feeling a little bit at the moment, like with the online space, the solution focused, orientated kind of approaches are more process orientated, but this solution based kind of approach to the online space has kind of at times felt a little bit like, I don't know, kind of like, it's great, and it needs a bit of this too. And this space needs to be kind of talked about a bit more. And us becoming our own medicines, and being kind of left into, and I mean, maybe there is definitely talk about it, but probably more as we going on, it's coming more and more.
Yeah. And I do feel like that's what 2024 will be initiating us into. Many of us is sharing more of that medicine space. And it's not even, like you said, like, you're a teacher or whatever, but really you're just guiding them into themselves, right? Like, we're guiding people back into themselves, and they have to do that internal work. So it's like, just creating the space for people, like you said, to be. I love how you said that. It's about being, like just allowing that space for them to drop into, and knowing that, they're doing that internal work. So I feel like, again, our power, as medicine people, as, oracles, as shamans, whatever it is that we, call ourselves, it's really the rise of that, even more than what it already has been. It's like a whole nother octave is dropping in, and I can feel it. And I can feel it through, our curiosity, our wonder, our even childlike, our cosmic inner child, and connecting in that way, and really birthing through play and joy, and holding that sacred space for others if they are ready to join. If they're
Absolutely.
ready.
Absolutely. And it's interesting because, in a way, thinking about, I don't even feel like I'm the guide. Whoever is the guide, I feel like I'm being guided by as well, because it's almost like this thing again, the soul is the guide. And I think that the process of energy reading for me, it becomes a lot more about silencing everything else, so that we can kind of see it, first of all, kind of silence our stuff that has its opinions or whatever, our biases and stuff, and then to be able to kind of like really kind of just see those beautiful expressions, soul expressions, through the language of the soul, which is, say, the clairvoyant visions or whatever, the nudges that we'll get through, or our scent, or our kind of clairs. But it's almost like, in a way, that's now what I think, in a way, the mission, or it was a mission, and now it's become just this journey of fun to like, I just want to know more, and I want to see more, and I want to see where that's taking. But it's not even like it has a very clear destination. And I feel like if I can just be enough of assistance to at least help people with whatever they're removing, so that then they can kind of feel the connecting, like in the right way with that energy. That's where I guess it becomes a bit of that the process is about now. It's like, okay, and then kind of understanding, finding that sort of psychic muscle through psychic intuition, particularly the vision aspect, the clairvoyant vision. It's kind of like, it becomes like a little bit of that, okay, that's your third eye projector. Let's kind of like now keep on tuning into it. And if we see it as a muscle, let's keep on practicing it, So want to kind of be a little bit in that world of like normalizing the process and seeing it. There is a sort of like a muscle. The more you practice it, the better it becomes. And on the same time, it's this kind of, there's a deep mystical quality to it, and a very whimsical expression, which is wonderful and fun to experience. So definitely excited to see how that deepens for all of us in 2024, and excited to kind of, I'm seeing a lot of expressions other people are putting out there that feel very interesting to me and new. And I feel like I wanna kind of enjoy more of what I see out in the world as well. There's some interesting people, I think, doing some good work.
Yes, absolutely.
And I'm kind of excited to experience myself with other people's energy signatures, and to see what that exchange is about, and moments like this, feels really special.
Yeah. And being able to, also understanding that, we carry codes and keys for each other. And so, us, finally weaving together and creating this space today is because we're carrying codes for one another and remembrances. And so that kind of brings me, shifting gears just a little bit, not too much, but that brings
You
me
can go
to,
anywhere you want. I am
I know,
happy wherever you want to take this, take it.
Well, I want to talk about dragons, and I want to talk about our ancient remembrances of antiquity, of the past, of, Mu or Lemuria or Atlantis, or, for me, the dragon has been rising a lot. I really associate myself as a serpent priestess, as I remember my times in Lemuria and Mu, and I have a lot of remembrances, a lot of memories that come through my meditation process, being able to access those parts of my soul and seeing where I'm still, playing small or stuck, and then also retrieving those soul gifts like you spoke of. Like, that's something that I've been working on for years now. And you know, I was so connected to the serpent and that energy as it moves, and how the serpent is really the one that's moving the energy through the earth, through the ley lines. But then the dragon started finally coming in for me, and then that was the creative aspect that dropped in a few years ago, and it's just been getting stronger and stronger. And so, as you know, I'm one who can move energy, right? I'm one who can manipulate the energies in a way. But now it's like that dragon energy of creation and birthing, and how we need that. We need both, right? To drop into what I call the dragon eggs, or the nodal points of the earth and her different stargates. And then also the dragon eggs that are dropping into our own body as stargate. And then how we're using the serpent then to move it out. And so I'm just curious about, like, what is your connection to the serpent, to the dragon? What are you feeling? I mean, I know it's the year of the wood dragon in Chinese astrology, which is super exciting as well. So what are you feeling into in this moment about all of that?
All of that. I loved as you were talking about it, and that sort of dropping into the creativity. You were doing this movement, and of course, knowing that the dragon holds the jewel, right? The jewel of wisdom and knowledge, which is the knowledge that we've been talking about. It's not about the societal knowledge. It's about that knowledge of the soul. And yeah, so I really love that. But it's very interesting you say that, because I definitely relate to the serpent's wisdom, and I really felt, for me, that has a very personal significance to me, and I'll explain the personal aspect to me. I think that for me, the dragon always represented a couple of things. Back in 2009, I had this strong call to I was getting a lot of, it was coming in my dream a lot, the dragon. And back in 2009, I ended up I have my whole back is tattooed. I have an oriental dragon. And what's interesting is that happened just before I went to Egypt on 2 sacred journeys in 2010. Whilst we were there, and it was the most transformative journeys I've ever been in my life. And where I kind of got my initiation as Samaya is when our teacher at the time, she was saying, well, we've been invited here by the dragons. Actually, we had an assignment here. We were invited by the dragons to do some work in Egypt, in the temples. We also into the king's chamber. And there was a very interesting sort of synchronicity of events that kind of happened there. Some of which I wouldn't necessarily be able to kind of talk about in such a sort of detail, because of the nature of everything that happened, and it's a big story. But I can tell you this, that for me, the dragon always held a very kind of significant role in terms of protection and benevolence. It feels a deeply auspicious, kind of protective, kind of a being, an entity that is there to kind of really not only kind of elevate with the wisdom and the knowledge it brings, but it kind of is really here to protect us, our spiritual selves, as we're kind of ascending, as we're going through all this work. And I've always felt like a really deep protection with the dragon energy. For me, that was kind of on that level, that's how we felt spiritually. On the other level, we talked about the physicality of our experience as well, and bodies, how we grow and evolve through the bodies. I feel that the movement of the dragon is so beautiful. I went to explore dragon kung fu a few years ago. I just because of that, I wanted to get into the discipline of this. I thought it was really beautiful. So the movement of the dragon, and the way that I think it teaches so much in itself, like the flexibility, the way it's able to adapt. There's a kind of non-violence aspect, despite the ferociousness of it, and the sense that it can really kind of it goes so much beyond the kind of image it portrays, But for me, it always felt like a deep protection, But you mentioned Atlantis, one of my guides is Atlantean. Her name is Zarya. And that doesn't so much connect with a dragon, but I wanted to bring it in because of you mentioning Atlantis and Lemuria. And one of the interesting things that happened in 2017, she came into meditation when I was in a group, and with some information, and she's kind of half fish and half kind of humanoid, I wouldn't quite say human, but one of the things she was talking about is that how interestingly, in our human world and reality, what we see as real is actually, we see Atlantis as this science fiction-y mythical space, but we see our reality as real. We fictionized, what's actually real, and we created reality out of fiction. And we're seeing things so much like topsy-turvy, and the way we're viewing the world is kind of like so distorted, through a distorted lens. And I really love that. And the thing that she was talking about is that, we are fearing to really embody our gifts. And however, that kind of, particularly those kind of aspects of our gifts that can feel a little bit weird, a little bit different, a little bit unique. And she was embodying that fully with who she was, and she was purple, and she had like a fin, and there was all sorts of things. And it was like, it was this sense that, like, like we are meant to be showing up as we are, with that unique voice, that unique, specific sort of like, I guess, message we have, and that very particular kind of angle that might feel really off the wall for some people, or that might feel very niche, whatever that is. And I do feel, for me, like 2024, it feels like this year where, we've seen it all. We've heard the kind of like the prototype messages that feel very kind of formulaic. And I feel that more than ever now, and I think our revolution is calling in for those very unique aspects that Zaria was talking about, to really kind of be able to create a little bit, bring a little bit more reality into the fiction aspect of the world and how we perceive it at the moment, and as we're moving through the veil of illusion. And I really love that message from her, because it was like the sense that, it's kind of really, it's about leaning into that, and really kind of going all in, and really kind of fully allowing ourselves, giving ourselves permission to embody those things. And I think the healing stuff that you've been talking about, the shadow work, all that, is so instrumental to us being able to do that, right? Because when we clear the shame, when we clear the whatever, the conditioning of our parents, society, this and that and the other, it becomes a lot more easy for us to kind of just like, there's not much to lose,
It's living our authenticity. It's living who we truly are, and no longer veiled, right? The
absolutely.
Goddess, the gift being veiled for so long. And I love that. And I just want to bring in, because I can feel that too, is like our multidimensional aspects. So like for me, she showed up as a guide, but then I came to realize that she's a version of me in Lemuria, Jael, and she's a Lemurian priestess, and so her energy, it's like she was showing me, just like you were saying of your guide, like the embodiment of that wisdom, the embodiment of being in your true sovereignty, in your strength, in your power, being able to navigate and move through life with such grace and ease and playfulness, and how that's so needed. So I feel like, us experiencing these past lives are really just other fractals of us that are like, let's integrate. It's like it was here, and now we're like integrating here, right? And so I just feel like I don't know if that's something you feel, but I feel very much my multidimensional aspects of these past lives are now integrating into this body, into this.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I feel like the last 2 years, there's been so much going on a 5D level for me. It's almost like I'm living the most intense adventures and experiences. Whilst in my 3D, I just go to the grocery store around the corner. You know what I mean? Like, take my son to school, and I feel like I've had enough. By the end of the day, I feel like I've done enough for today. Like, because there's been so much that's been going on. I've been on the twin flame journey the last few years. It activated the shit out of me. Like, it took me to hell and back, but it's been like, absolutely essential, I guess. It was something I've chosen. What can I say? There's been the karmic journeys, there's been all sorts of things. And it's sort of like, it's definitely been it is a process of integration, past lives inclusive, and I think all that creating the space, because we talked about the sort of trauma-based productivity, you know, it's very convenient to create this kind of like external productivity that makes us think we tick all these boxes, we do that, but actually, what is the sacrifice for that? The sacrifice is that we kind of like don't give ourselves we don't create the space to really get into these adventures that are kind of essentially adventures for our awakening, right? And to experience ourselves on a more multidimensional nature, to really lean into the journey that's, you know, our higher self and our destiny has for us, right, to ascend. And I think that, you know, I really love the message that Zaria was sending about all this, because it's like we have fictionalized those spiritual adventures. We have created them, and there's a section in bookshops, right? You can have, you know, the fantasy realm, for instance. So much of that. That's why I'm such a like big fan of my son playing video games. Like, I don't have an issue with video games. I don't want him being there like 8 hours a day, but I love that, you know, he has this new game where he visits all these planets, and then he understands this thing about exploration and going and you know, sort of gamifying a little bit of that, all that kind of stuff. I think is very interesting, you know. But and coming back to the dragon, one thing I want to say is also like kind of paying homage to the Kundalini, of course, right? The serpent of awakening, that being a very important sort of aspect as well. In my 20s, I was actually a practicing Buddhist. Worked in communities, in Buddhist community in London. And one of my beloved teachers, Padmapani, who's actually spent Christmas here with us, he's the one who introduced me. In Buddhist tradition, you have the Naga. The Naga is actually a really important kind of symbology, you know, because all these beings, essentially, they are symbols who, when they become, they really bring our awakening. They're really essentially activating aspects of our being. They're integrating almost like in a way that a soul retrieval would. And once they integrate, they really awaken certain aspects that really bring elements of those kind of creatures and those beings into us, right? So the aspects that we embody through a dragon, through, I don't know, whatever other being that it could be, through another power animal, for instance, we end up integrating some of the what they represent. And what I loved about that, so I had this introduction through the Nagas into dragon energy. And because so far I had only had it through sort of mythology, and, you know, particularly the princess and the prince. And it's kind of like, and then the Kundalini and the process I went through in my early 20s, where I had a Kundalini awakening and all hell broke loose. And I didn't know, like, people didn't know what to do with me. I didn't know what to do with me, but it was this empowering process, right? So it's like, it's the journey. These are archetypal energies, essentially. However, what I experience is that my journey with the dragon or the Kundalini will be very different to each other persons that I get to meet and know about. And that's why these spaces are really important, because then we can really kind of exchange stories. And I say, oh, really? And like, oh, this is what happened to me, you know? And it's like, oh, and that led to that. And I think that was that's kind of like an interesting one. And for now, for me, it feels like the dragon feels like this very protective energy and benevolent energy that's really supporting me. Kind of a little bit like, to be honest with you, it feels a little bit more like an archangelic, interesting kind of sort of vibe to me. Like it feels like it's there to protect me, like an angel would.
Oh, I love that so much.
I love
that so much. And I know for me and the dragon, we've had, I've had a lot of experiences where I am bringing my dragon body back into wholeness. And so I actually started this podcast last year after I had this amazing dream meditation. It was amazing, but basically it was like I was the dragon inside the inner earth, and like all of these children of humanity came and basically helped me to restore my heart. But all those children were me. They were like all the aspects of me coming in and like healing my inner child, and then being able to like heal my dragon heart. And that's the message where it was like, you are dragon heart. And so from
Oh,
there, it was like that connection was just sealed and like part of me. And so like reclaiming these aspects through all of the inner work that we're doing, right? We're all reclaiming these different parts of ourselves and understanding. For me, like I'm very visual. And so when I see it outside of myself, then I can bring it into myself, of
yeah,
course. And so
it really
doing
helps.
all that heart work, and I feel like it has opened me up for what 2024 is going to be bringing in store, which still I don't know all of it, but I'm getting little pieces. And so
Yeah,
the dragon energy does feel very protective to me as well. And it's like this
yeah,
heart-centered courage, strength,
yes,
bravery, love,
yeah.
wisdom, like all of that. Like, and we're, like you said, we're pulling those pieces in and using those archetypal energies, right, to help us to grow and help us to expand and help us really to be like the best versions of ourselves. And for me, it's a devotee of the path of love and how we can bring more of that into our world and how we can heal the dragon heart, how we could heal ourselves to live better and perform better and
Yeah.
just be better, be our true authentic expression in this world and not be afraid of what others think. And just if we need to go howl at the moon, go howl at the moon.
Absolutely. Go and hug your tree. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Everything like that you need to do. I think that I think it's all part of the sort of what we're talking about when we talk about intuitive living and really trusting into the visuals, the visions, the feelings, the sensations that guide you to connect with something more. The dreams are also portals, right? And to really have those personal energetic experiences with those elements that are archetypal energies that go way beyond the intellect, because that's what really transformation is. It's not through something that we will read, but obviously the synchronicities and the books that will come into our lives, those are also important. But really kind of like to not be afraid to step into that kind of more kind of intuitive led and kind of like visceral kind of connection with those beings and the wisdom that they hold for us, because they might not appear necessarily. We need to be open. We need to be open to kind of receive them, and I think that one of the challenges that I feel is held for me, and I'm interested in challenges, up to a point, and this is a good challenge, but I think it's that now here's the thing that I'm dealing with now is like everything we have such a strong the 3D level, the 3D experience is a very visceral, very strong, very visual experience, and it's kind of like that shift that goes from changing gears from the external realm to going within. That's where my challenge as a kind of teaching the sort of energy reading now and getting people into the mystery schools is kind of like that, changing those gears in our day-to-day, and people getting into a bit of a habit really to do that, because habits are what creates kind of those shifts and changes, right? To become more comfortable with something, to be able to make those shifts in our day-to-day feels where the challenge is at right now, because it's very easy to dismiss. Like I remember once I was working with a client and it was, our work is done. Obviously guides don't do 9 to 5, right? And I was just put something to watch on whatever on YouTube, and I got a message to say to my client that she was about to manifest some client work, and that she was, but it wasn't going to happen through it was all going to be magical manifesting. And I thought like, well, I've just finished work, I could, but I said, no, I'll go and tell her, and I let her know. And then she just kind of like, I said to her, think about the days that you're ready to receive clients. And she just kind of created the space for it, basically, right? And then a couple of days later, she said, you won't believe it. Just out of the blue, 2 ladies contacted me, one of which just lives around the corner. She ended up booking a spot to work on this program she had, like on her one-to-one. And she's just like, that was it. It was just, and it's this thing that now, if I wasn't kind of used to tuning in a little bit, you know what I mean? To hear those nudges, I could have just easily dismissed it as just like this kind of little kind of imagine like a fragment of my imagination, as opposed to communication from a guide. And I think that's also another lesson for me, that as we move into 2024 and beyond, I think we need to start getting a little bit more comfortable about kind of like creating that shift of gears into the internal a little bit more, to create that sacred space. Because how are we going to really listen and hear the nudges? How are we going to start to get those communications if we're constantly bombarded more and more by technologies, TVs, all the external stuff that we need to do? Like, let's not be afraid to maybe slow down a bit, create a little bit of space where we're okay with doing not much. And to start going within a little bit more, because otherwise we're not going to be kind of creating those, we're not going to opening up the vessel to have those experiences. We're not going to be as receptive to them, you know? So it's an interesting little challenge at the moment. That's the thing that I'm sitting with. How do we make it appetizing enough for people, you know? And how do we because then if that is led through desire and play, it needs to feel good for people to want to do it, as opposed to, right, okay, sit down, you know. We're not like Zen masters trying to get people like in the meditation cushion. It's like, it needs to kind of like, we need to tempt people into this, you know.
I love that you're saying that, because that's something that I've been guided towards too. Like, so I do in-person gatherings, cacao ceremonies, blue lotus ceremonies, things like that.
Nice.
And that's one of the things that's been coming forward, is like, it's about play. Like, get your crayons out, get your coloring pages out, you know, go outside, listen to nature, what's reflecting back, and teaching people how to like access that. And then also like the movement of the body, and the pleasure and the play. And just, I think that part still some people aren't quite there yet with that, but I feel like more of that's needed. Like, we need more play, more fun, more pleasure. It doesn't have to be, like you said, sitting on a meditation cushion, which is also very valid too. Like, I love to meditate, but being able to bring in more of those opportunities for people to let loose in a non-judgmental way, where people, you know, letting go of the fear of what people think and all of that, but just being in that safe, like you said, the safe space, the space that's safe within ourselves, resourcing ourselves, and then being able to move that out in a way that will, attract the people who are ready for that exploration, because it's still fun, but it's still exploration. It leads us into another aspect of who we are. And that's one of the Hawthorne mystery schools, right? That's one of her thing that she taught, was all about how we can bring in this joy and pleasure and play, and do it in a way that can be healing, do it in a way that can assist humanity in really coming into right relationship with all of life.
Do you know, absolutely. It's funny you mentioned Hathors, because my teacher in Glastonbury, she used to say, who took us to Egypt, and we went to the Isis temple a couple of times at like 4 a.m. We were all dressed in white, in a lantern, in a boat, in the dark, so that we can have the temple to ourselves and do our rituals. And what was funny was that she says, like, guys, she was the funniest woman. She was an incredible woman. She says, the Hathors sort of state of being, and vibrational state of being, starts from ecstasy and goes to beyond what you can imagine. We start from misery. And, you know, if we're lucky, we go to like feeling,
Well, and I love that too, because that's part of our mission. That's part of my mission here, is to come into more of that. And I know Hathor is a very strong guide with me, and I remember lifetimes as a priestess of hers and Isis both. And so I think it's that remembrance of the ecstasy and the passion and the play, and, you know, drinking and being merry and having fun, but still getting the job done.
Yeah. Absolutely. And, you know, if the job done, you know, it might not be like necessarily, you know, what the job done that needs to be done might be like, the priorities might change over the years, you know. So for me, a lot of what I thought the jobs that needed to be done were not as important. And I started like, you know, started eliminating things that felt important and they were not. And it might be like actually a lot smaller. And then the job that needs to be done can also, you start realizing, oh, this can be fun. I can do this in a way that actually that job is fun as well, you know? And but it is about steps, isn't it? Incremental. I really believe in the incremental a lot more than the quantum leaping. First of all, I think the word quantum creates a lot of confusion for people. Energetically, when people hear the quantum, it's not feeling a hard connection or anything. It sounds a little bit sexy sci-fi, but it doesn't really grab people. But I found incremental kind of, it feels a lot more lighter on my energy, because what I found that happens with incremental and might end up quantum leaping me into something actually, because I don't give myself so much pressure and I just allow myself to be tempted by each and every little kind of step and stage into like, oh, this feels good. I didn't think it would feel good. This feels good. Let's just see if I do more of this or da da da. And then rather than give myself, I take away the pressure. And I see that a lot more gets done or achieved or whatever by focusing on incremental shifts.
And I love the tempted. That was just like, that just lit me up. I was like, whoo, let's do that. Tempted.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's so fun and sexy.
And you know what? And I found that I'm in the stage now where I feel like, you know what? I don't even know what we're meant to be doing really with any of it. So I might as well just like, okay, and I'm starting to kind of like pull myself out of like whatever it's meant to be like the thing. And I kind of just start to do, okay, today I feel like I know that I'm working with this and I know that I'm helping people with this, and everything else is fun and play. So with my son, we're trying to make this as much as possible. You know, we still deal with the realities of, you know, sadness with all the human feels, you know, but really like, who told us that the stuff that how we meant to do life, that it's like, it has to be a drag or the stuff that, you know, who told us that? Like, I'm really starting to challenge every little single thing that pops into my mind. But like, but who said that? You know, sorry, what? Like, why is this? And I wonder why. And this is starting to happen automatically. And I really like that, because it's kind of like, oh, okay, I don't know that I resonate with this, but it's interesting. Somebody believes that we should do this. You know, I don't know why. So I think every moment there's an opportunity to go beyond, look a bit beyond. And I do think it's coming from the place of just playfulness and experimentation, rather than like, you know, and truth feels light, lies feel heavy. So if something makes me feel heavy, I'm going to question it, you know.
And what a beautiful way to kind of move through the energy too, is, you know, feeling into the body. That's the important thing, is to be able to feel into our bodies. And, you know, like you said, is it light? Is it heavy? Does it feel like there's pressure to do something? Because oftentimes that's a sign that we need to slow down, pause, reflect, use our own heart's discernment to decide what path to take. So I love that you brought that up, because that's totally exactly where I'm at too.
Oh, nice.
So,
And I think that for me,
go ahead.
Sorry, just want to say this last thing. I think what's really helping me at the moment is, going back to the energetic language, is 100% whimsical. When I have information communicated through energy, when I tune into my higher self, and when I teach this process, it doesn't show up like when it's showing me I need to go in this direction or something. It shows up as something completely like bonkers, like out of like, I don't know. And it shows up in a very poetic way, and it's sort of like in a very whimsical way. So I feel like if the truth has been revealed to me, and things that actually I keep on following this knowledge and this information that's delivering good stuff for me, it's doing good things, it's helped me grow my business, become solely dependent on my business as a single parent, manifest the home of my dreams purely by following the language of this energy of the soul. What's interesting is that and it communicates itself. The communication is just so much more light and fun. Like, why should I be taking life seriously? You know, there's no kind of rational reason for it, you know? So what's being revealed is like actually that there's a lot more kind of like it's that topsy-turvy thing again. There's a lot more seriousness, and there's a lot more rationality and reason and essence and truth in something that initially might appear to you in a way that you might not want to take it seriously. You know, you might think like, oh, this is funny, you know, what is this? And so it's like it's kind of like becoming a lot more the norm, you know. So anyway, yeah, that's kind of a little side thing I wanted to add.
I love it. I love it all. And I think that I feel like we could keep talking forever.
I
Because
know.
it's so fun. I love these kinds of conversations. So before we go, I'd love for you just to kind of feel into the space right now, feel into your heart. And if you were to deliver a message to humanity in this moment, or even for 2024, what are you feeling? What message wants to be shared today?
It's here already. It's come up straight away. The message that immediately came is that it's not too late. I felt like I tuned into a heavy energy that kind of talked that in the collective, that feel a lot of people feel that it's too late in their lives. They're too old, or they should have done things earlier, or the journey that they've had was like a waste of time, and it wasn't. None of it was a waste. Everything gets it's like a compost. And it feels, that's the first thing that I felt, was the energy of heaviness around lateness, being late in life. So it's not late. There's the reminder that actually we just you know, this is one of the life experiences we have. The fact that we're here right now is a total miracle, that we're experiencing ourselves in a 3D realm and keeping ourselves alive, and that it's just a small part of the journey. It's so much bigger than what we think our rational mind is experiencing. So nobody right now is late in anything. And if we can just really kind of allow that to sink in, and if we can really kind of just drop into the understanding that you're exactly where you need to be right now, and that it's all kind of happening as it should. And right now, yes, if you are ready, if you want to ascend more, if you want to experience more, if you want to step, kind of create a little bit more motion, that's also available. That's also available. But it's not through pushing, it's through accepting, releasing, and just allowing. But nobody's late right now, and it can feel like everyone's late, and it's not. And it's one of those distortions in our planet right now that I think is just creating heaviness that is just so unnecessary. And it isn't distortion, it's not true.
Yeah. And I feel like I'm in my 40s and I just went back to school.
Thanks.
I'm a
For
single
you.
mom too. And so, you know, it's not too late. For a long time I thought maybe I missed the boat, but it's not. So I think that message also hit home for me. So thank you for sharing that. It was
Yeah,
beautiful. Yeah.
pleasure. And thank
Yeah.
you so much for having me.
Yeah.
It's been lovely. I really enjoyed it.
So tell people that are watching, where can they find you?
They can find me sort of social media. I guess there's the Samaya Adelin. My name is my handle on Instagram, and Facebook, I guess my personal Facebook as well. I've got a YouTube channel where I share those interviews. I know we're going to be having one together soon. And that's the Mystery School of Samaya Adelin. And I like to share little kind of like tidbits of like stuff that gets downloaded, you know, and I like to sort of bind it with very practical wisdom around kind of like, I guess, alignment and healing mainly, and expansion on the channel. So as well as other kind of interviews and conversations with other people. So those are the places. Yeah.
Oh, I love that. And I'll make sure to put that in the description below so you guys can go check out her work and follow her. And I just want to say thank you again so much for joining. I do have a little bit of more light language that wants to come through just so we can kind of close the space. So for you guys that are watching, if you'd like, you can put your hand on your heart, maybe a hand on the womb or the belly space, and just receive this transmission as it comes forward. Saria sutu koreatia sanahayo tu ai kayo sono. Riano koai tia sono hu ayata haya. Sonoto kreasitia sono puaiki. Salani kreasoto ayata haria sonoto. Moaya tia sonoto, kriasi tia sonoto, boya sanaya koayata. So just allowing that energy to enter into the heart space. And I just want to say thank you once again for joining, and thank you all so much for watching. And stay tuned for the next one. I'll be rolling these out periodically as I can with my schedule. So thank you guys so much, and I hope you all have a great day.
Bye.
Bye.